You have been a parent as somebody who is first on the traditional path of yoga, then now aligned with integral yoga. What does it mean to be a parent while being on the path of yoga? Particularly for young parents or couples or wanting to be parents to understand, first of all, that this is a big responsibility and of course a great joy, a great process of learning. But how do you as a parent hold space consciously? That too, I would say, in a world today which has all kinds of influences. To give you an example, when we were growing up, we could only compare ourselves with our peers or with our seniors, a little bit with whatever we saw on media. Now, somebody who is a teenager, a 13-year-old, can compare oneself to the world's best thanks to Instagram, Facebook. And teenagers do have a tendency of comparing and seeking validation, wanting reassurance. So, how do you hold space as a parent for your child to really blossom? Sometimes, when there are all kinds of influences as well. And how do you create a space from which the child can take the right kind of decisions for one's life? Even what is the role of a parent? Because, traditionally we saw mother feeds, father earns. These were the two roles. But is having enough money to eat and eating that food enough for life? Perhaps no. So then what is the role of a parent? What is a household meant to do? And what is the role and responsibility of a parent? So how does one approach parenting?
I think parenting starts even before birth. Why do you want a child?
Right.
That is very important. Everybody is having children. Are you wanting to create more children who are just going to earn their bread and butter and going to live their daily life, just earning and eating food?
No, people want babies in order to fulfill their emotional need.
Also that who will look after your emotional needs, who will look after you in your old age, all of that,
Right.
all of those things. So when I wanted to have a child, I was very, very clear because I was already a sadhak at that time. So I was very clear and I was not yet into Sri Aurobindo in the mother. So when this desire to have a child came, it came as a desire. It's called Putreshna. In our Shastras, in the scriptures, it is called. It is also a kind of a desire. Like there is a desire to earn money, to have fame. And then there is a desire to have a child. So all of these things, like you said, for fulfilling your own emotional desires and all of that. And the parent starts feeling complete when they've had a child. That kind of feeling. But I did not want to have a child for that. Suddenly the desire came in, and the desire came that I want to have a child who's very great, as great as Swami Vivekananda. And that kind of gripped me. And maybe it was also my underlying thing that I couldn't do anything as great, So I stood for a very high ideal. And I told my partner. My partner was like, okay, because I'm very intense. So then I said that we have to pray for such a child. Such a child will not happen just like that. And then I took the help of my guru, and my guru said, no, you don't need to. He wrote a poem to me. And he said, you don't need to have a child. He said, why can't you be like Ramakrishna and Sri Ramakrishna Paramhansa and Sharadama, and the whole world is your child. Why do you want to have a child? So I said, no, I want to have a child because something is happening. A desire is coming, but it is not just a desire for that who will look after me for my old age. All that things is not there. And I don't even want a normal child. One who will just go for, they'll have a degree and they'll become a doctor or an engineer and just, that kind of a child. So I want a very great soul. And can you help me with what kind of prayers should I do for this kind of? Because I'd heard of these stories in the Ramayana and in the Bhagavatam that even when Krishna was wanting, Devaki and Vasudev prayed. And when Rama, Kaushalya and Dashratha prayed, they prayed to the gods, and that. So even they prayed. So I said, why can't I also pray? And later on, of course, I read Sri Mothers also and Sri Aurobindo that they also said that, yes, you have to pray if you want a divine child. And those writings are there in that book, Prenatal Education. So I prayed. I did these anushtans. In fact, there was one anushtan which I'll just talk about. I sat for 16 hours at a go. I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I did the complete Ramcharitmanas called the Akhand Ramayana in 16 hours. You don't get up. You even only get up to go to the washroom if you have to, but then you have to wash up a little bit. And you don't eat anything. The thing that you offer to the Lord, some fruits, you can eat that in the 16 hours. And you do complete Ramcharitmanas. So there will be some helper. So my partner helped me. And he was always just a helper, who would be there. But I would be the main person because he's not that intense. He doesn't have that intensity, but he was ready to help. And I realized that itself, that created so much of purification within me. I felt that I felt like a tapaswani, and it became I started shining. I started shining a lot. Like, my face would be so radiant. And I did so many more anushtans like that. So, and then I became pregnant. But when did I become pregnant? When I walked into the Delhi ashram. Just after that. So it was as if the soul, no, they also wait. And it was then that I became pregnant after that. And so it was then that after my child was born, she is only comfortable with Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So it is almost as if a soul is coming who wants to be here. And
for even a 4-year-old to have that intuition, understanding.
Yeah, so she's an old soul. It is obvious. And she has chosen me as a parent. So parenting, so everybody chooses their parents. And the more and more the conscious the parents are, the more and more they invite those souls who want to come and want to do their journey. So I felt my privilege. And it was a real privilege to, and then when the child was born, and each and every moment, of course, that time I was just entering into Sri Aurobindo's yoga, but was not fully in there. So there was a lot of the traditional approach. I would be just chanting, and I would be doing my Bhagavad Gita shlokas when I was the child. I would be singing. I would be doing everything. And the child picked that up so fast, or maybe it had its own previous sanskaras also. So the child could actually chant the Bhagavad Gita when she was 2 years old. And full chapters.
Wow.
Yeah, so that happens. So it must be also her previous sanskara, but also whenever she was with me, it was only that. And even when I was pregnant, I just kept a photo of Swami Vivekananda and Krishna in front on my. I do not want the less, I said. I want a child who I told my guru, so he would laugh. He said, I said, if at 5 years old also she tells me I just want to walk out and I want to live a divine life, it's absolutely fine with me. And may I always have that courage to feel that. May I not be attached to her. No, all those things are there. And all those struggles will always be there because that is a lower part of you which will always try to pull you down. But it is this high ideal. And Mother also talks about it in the second chapter on education. So that this high ideal is what I think is the crux of parenting that I feel that all young parents should have. If they do not have a child who live um, a very high ideal, then this is not what the world today needs. The world needs children who will, who are of a different world to lead towards that marvelous dawn. No, we need more children for that. We do not need ordinary children anymore, but for that we have to pray so that those souls come in.
But also, I want you to focus a little bit on, like, I don't want what you've shared, and what you've shared is so deep and so profound, and one could feel your intensity in it. But there are lots of sadhaks who have children, and they didn't necessarily consciously have children. For some people, it happened as a part of, this is a part of marriage. Marriage is a part of life. Children are a part of life, and it happened. And now they're beginning their journey and they're wanting to walk on the path consciously. It shouldn't also, in some ways, become about pressurizing children now to be, how sometimes parents pressurize children to be perfect academically. This can also become, now you become perfect spiritually. That is a complete misinterpretation of what you've spoken. I know that's not what you've spoken, but I also want to make sure that that is not what gets understood. So I want you to also speak to those parents who have children, and some of those children, they are interested in ordinary things of life. And they have a little battle going on that, uh, they want their children to, say, move towards divine life, but children, at a certain stage in life, they are more interested, like you were in parties. I remember, on Children's Day, my objective used to be to look the best. That is what I was busy with in my teenage. So, children have to go through that. And I don't think we can also, beyond a point, hurry their evolution or their journey. And one has to respect where a person is in one's life and journey. And yet, in that context, how can a certain atmosphere be created where the child comes to that inner guide? In a way, I feel every parent is an educator, and every house is a educational institute. The atmosphere you're creating, right? So, if you can shed a little light on that also.
In fact, in the olden days, it was like that.
Right.
The education began at home, and it was always at home. Then they went to their gurus much later, to the Gurukul, no?
Right.
At around 9 years old. Till 8 years old, the child was at home, being educated by their parent. So what did the parents do? It was only, you cannot do anything with the child unless you do it with yourself. If you want a child to eat a carrot, you say, oh, the child must eat all fruits and must eat all healthy foods. But if you are eating chips, या छुप छुप के भी खा रहे हो, बच्चे के सामने you are not eating, and then you are eating in your room. That's what I have caught many parents do. They say all these idealistic things and all, but in their actual life, they are not able to do. They put their children to sleep at 9 o'clock, and then they watch movies till 12 o'clock. They watch Netflix till 12. Then the children, catch that vibration.
Yeah.
So if you are not a master of yourself, if you are not able to control your impulses, and you tell the children to control their impulses, it's not right.
Right.
I think, yes, in one day you will not be able to be a master, but you start trying, you start aspiring for it, and you live a sincere life. You live a life of high ideal. You don't tell this to your child, but you at least live that. You try to be closer to your inner friend, to your inner guide. And you see how your child will also start doing that slowly. So that is, mother says it also in even in again in her articles of education, that, and she talks to parents actually more categorical, because children spend a lot of time at home. The teacher could be perfect, the school could be perfect, but if the parent is not working on himself, is not working on his lower nature, after entering, as you said, this is for sadhaks, right? Who have children already. So if you say that you are a sadhak, then your only business is to work on your nature, not on your child's nature. To be extremely sincere, to set a high ideal, and then you see that children will start respecting you. Children start following it. And then you will have that ground to tell the child something. So that is, I think, the first step that the parent has to start doing when the children are very little. And then to surround them with, mother says that, and I tried to do that very sincerely, because by then I was in Mirambika and I was reading so much of the mother and her articles on education. Till 6 to 7 years old, till the child's mind has not fully developed, to surround the child with beauty. Not with the stories. Nowadays, even in the storybooks, in the on television and everything, even what serials you're showing your children. Like, I had done so much of study, like I said, this Charlie and Lola. I found some of these serials so amazingly beautiful. They were so pure. And I only showed those serials to my child. Right. So, you have to be so selective on till 7 years old, till their mind has developed, to surround them with beauty, so that their foundation is on love and beauty, and that solid foundation you give, and yourself living a very high ideal. And then their minds develop in a very different way. What you teach them is that inner discrimination, because you have that. And then when they are grown up, they know that, oh, even if I eat a packet, even if I eat chips, or when I eat carrot, what happens? They're able to discriminate. Because that first few years of solid foundation you have laid, you have spent time with your children. That is also very important, to spend time, to surround them with beauty, and to surround them with so much love, stories. Why don't you cook up a story on your own? Like, I remember that every night I used to tell my child Ramayana. She never used to like all those parts in the Ramayana where there was, there was violence, or there was a crudity, or there was some demon coming. She would say, "Mama, can we change it? Why did Jatayu die? Drama was so powerful. Couldn't he help?" So we said, "Okay, we'll change it." They climbed over Jatayu, and Jatayu helped them to go to Lanka. So, we changed a lot of the Ramayana. Why did he have to leave behind Shabri? Right. She was so sweet. No, couldn't she help in the wartime? She could make all the food for all of them. So we let Shabri also be in the team. So you see how the child's way of seeing Ramayana. It's so much beauty. She doesn't want to see the ugliness, even though that may be the truthful Ramayana story. But that is also for an adult, not for the child. The child's way of seeing things is very beautiful. If we orient it there. And that's how, and also to surround the child with so much beautiful music. Do not force him to learn classical music. You sing. You play sports. And I would play every day. I would go to the park and play even football with my child. I used to, just be everything with the child, sing with the child, expose the child to music. And you sing, you don't force the child to sing or to dance. And the child will pick up everything. The child will develop a taste for all these refined uh, things of beauty that we have around, no? The classical arts. So these are the things that how the refinement of the soul happens.